Welcome to Dragon Tales. I'm Sandra Pelly, the Dragon Ally. In this podcast, we explore the magical world of dragons, from connecting with your dragon and building relationships to dragon energy. Each episode dives into the transformative power of dragons. Why dragons, you might ask? They are powerful allies in our spiritual journeys, helping us unlock our inner strength and transform our lives. Join me to explore topics like meeting your dragon, dragon eggs, and dragon light language, as well as personal stories from our community. Discover how your inner dragon can guide you. Ready to embrace your inner dragon? Subscribe to Dragon Tales, visit our website, follow us on social media, and join our community. Let's take flight together.
That's too funny. I was watching for it. And hello, everybody. I am just really, really excited today to bring you the beautiful Caroline, the original Dragon Lady. We've had some conversations together a couple different times, and it was so funny because I reached out to her on Instagram. I think it was close to maybe a year, maybe 2 years ago, and we were just like two ships passing in the night. We didn't click, and then this year we've been just boom, 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 boom. Lots of really interesting things have been happening. And I'd love to read your bio, but I think the thing that interests me personally the most, and I really want to hear a little bit more about this, is the Dragon Reiki end of things. And I know I'm kind of just going zing. However, I would love to hear a little bit about your background and how you became the original Dragon Lady, if you don't mind first, please.
So, I'm, I suppose, lucky enough to be a fourth generation psychic, fourth or fifth, fourth, I think, from my dad's side, and he sees ghosties and things. So I've always grown up knowing about energy, ghosts, spirits. We had a ghost in the house I grew up in called George, who was a Quaker. And so I've always known about these kind of things. It was never weird to me. It might be weird to everybody else. It certainly wasn't weird to me. And so that's what my journey just sort of kept, as is always. It was just divinely guided, as always happens. And you know how the weird synchronistic coincidences happen in life. And via a boyfriend when I was 17, I met my mentor, who was actually his father. And that's how my sort of journey started. And it was Gethin's passing when I was in my early 30s, because we stayed in touch. You know, the relationship broke down as they do when you're teenagers. We went our separate ways. But I stayed in touch with his dad right through till his passing. And I was in my early 30s. And it was his passing that was the catalyst for me actually formally starting my spiritual training. So I trained as a spiritual healer. So that was in the late 90s. Fast forward to 2004-ish, I came across the Colourworks system, or it was Colourworks then. It's now called Colour Mirrors, and so these beautiful coloured bottles, and within that system, there's a range of spritzers that are sprays, and there were these dragon sprays or dragon spritzers. And I was like, and Karani said to me, Caroline, you are so dragon. It's got your name all over it. You need to go and talk to Moira. You need to go and explore the dragons. You need to go and look at color mirrors. And she kept on about these bloody dragons. And it's like, dragons, it's just a step too far. Like unicorns, dragons, I'm sorry, you just all need locking up. I can do power animals, I can do guides, I can do whatever, but dragons, I know. Anyway, she kept on so much, and I was then getting intrigued to like, what is this about? So off I trundled to do my practitioner training in the colour mirror system, and a part of the first 2 days that we did, or that I did, as that's how it was set out then, was we had to go and choose a spray to work with or spritzer to work with. And none of the bottles are labelled. So if you know colour mirrors, there's no labels on them. They're just pure colour. They're beautiful. Anyway, I trundled into the next room, and you had to go with your intuition, what you were guided to, not by your normal colour or anything like that. And I came out holding this sort of purpley black spray, and Moira laughed, who was our teacher, and she said, "Caroline, that's black dragon." It was like, oh, for God's sake. And it should, you're not going to escape the dragons. And so that's when my journey really started, was thanks to Melissa Karani and Moira, who are they're the three world's main teachers of colour mirrors now. And Melissa is the originator of all the colour mirror system. And so that's where my dragon journey started. And I kept parking it and parking it and parking it. Although I was working with Black Dragon at the time, but very like, I don't believe this type of thing. Anyway, by 2006, I then I did my Reiki 1. And it was during my Reiki 1 that I was, talk about dragged into dragons kicking and screaming. I was given 48 dragons all at once. And as it was during the last attunement. And the way my Reiki Master set it up was just so perfect, because we had the 4 quarters, we had all the elements. And then in come 48 dragons. And I could sort of clairvoyantly, clairaudiently hear the noise. And I looked up clairvoyantly, and we were in a woodland, and we were in like a little copse, and you could see the really tall pine trees. I sort of looked up. It's like, they're bloody big birds. What on earth's that? And I thought, and it dawned on me, they're not birds, they're dragons, because I could only see them as silhouettes. And as I twigged to what they were, I had the most enormous download. It was huge. And they gave me my life's work. And that was to teach about dragon, write a book, create a set of cards, and create dragon sprays, and a couple of other jobs. The cards and sprays in the book took an awful long time. That took a lot of years. That was like well over a decade later. But I was already teaching, so it was easy. All I had to do was be given the information by the dragons, and then share that information. So that was in the mid 2000s, really, sort of pre 2010.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course you can. Yeah, I will rattle on. So please jump in, because I'll go. Otherwise,
yeah, I love that. One of the things that I'm really consciously aware of is, for myself, it's been a very slow, gentle, almost like mediocre pathway into this inner dragon and dragon energy, right? And then I hear experiences like yours, and I know of another couple people that have just been inundated with dragons. What do you do with that overwhelm? How do you handle that? Because there's going to be other people listening to this that have maybe had similar experiences, and they're like either shutting down or totally ignoring, or really are clueless as to what do they do? How do they do, right? So could you give us some advice on that?
I hear you. Oh, and you have my full sympathy if you are being given a shed load of instruction by dragon in one hit. So the first thing I would say is, please do not ignore it, because that's what I did, and that's what they dumped on me. I literally, for probably a year, at least a year, I did nothing other than write dragon. And that was the formation of my Dragon Path Oracle cards. And literally, I was spending all day just channeling dragon, and it is overwhelming. And what was really interesting, and it doesn't happen now, says she, touch wood, is when you have that really strong dragon energy come in, is it used to make me feel really nauseous. And I soon learned about grounding. I thought I was grounded, then there's grounded, and there was being dragon grounded. So that helped quite a lot. It's actually grounding much more deeply. But of course, what was going on, and it's only in much more recent years I've understood this now, is that the dragon's energy is it's a really big energy, and we weren't used to that. and we were still working sort of 3 and 4D, and maybe touching on 5D, because the dragons were coming in at 7th and above.
Yeah.
And so our frequency with working with dragon and through the collective consciousness has shifted. But if you are getting an awful lot of dragon, you can ask them to back off. Please do not ignore them. They have a message for you that they wish for you to share with the world. And the easiest way to shut them up is to write.
Channel write, automatic writing, right?
Yeah. Just write, and just whatever comes in your head, and don't critique it. Don't think this is your imagination. Don't, whatever it is. What they've taught me is they call it mind dumping. It doesn't matter what goes on the page, just put it on the page, and then you can go back to it later. And some of the messages are probably 90% of the messages that are in my dragon deck are from that process, and they were not changed. And when I've had to deal with Watkins, I said to them, if you change any wording in those messages, the deal's off. Because they've got to be what the dragons gave me during 2007, 2008. They cannot and must not be changed.
Love that.
And so that's what happened. So ground, breathe, have a jug of water beside you, and write, and try and get done as much as you can. But you can ask them to step away, you can ask them to step back, and you can tell them you actually need a break.
Yeah.
And people get really worried. Well, and this is something I come across so often. Please do not think because you've told your dragons to back off, they're going to be offended and not come back. That does not happen. Any more than you need to make sacrifices or any kind of, yes, to have an altar like you do for anything else when you're doing any kind of spiritual work. But you do not have to be this, oh, dragon, oh, wonderful dragon, oh, am I worthy of working with you? Forget it. It's rubbish. You don't need any of that.
I love this. I love this because what I'm hearing is it's way simpler than you think it is.
Always. It is.
Yeah.
It is literally ask. Well, how do I ask a dragon to protect me? What do I have to do? What incense do I like? What crystals do I need? Do I have to have, do I have to spin around 3 times and look at the moon? No.
I
For
love
God's
this.
sake, ask.
Yeah.
It's really simple. And the dragons gave me a phrase through somebody else many years ago. KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. The dragons love that phrase. If it's complicated, convoluted, it is not dragon, it is your ego. And that's not your big-headed ego. That's your ego of, I'm not good enough. I don't know what I'm doing. Yada, yada, yada. And it's, as long as you're heart-centered and you are being honest with yourself and not beating yourself up and going into full-on inner critic that's, demoralizing you, you won't go far wrong.
Yeah. Thank you. I really appreciate you taking the time to tell us that, because I think there's some real jewels in there that people will be able to simply do. They'll realize that it's their mind sending them off in all kinds of directions. And really the simplicity is, it's just like when I connect with a guide, all I do is say, I'd like to connect to, and I say the guide, and boom, I'm connected. There doesn't have to be big ceremony. Big ceremony is nice. You're setting a whole other intention with that, of course.
Yes.
But in the simplicity of things, we can be in connection all the time versus wishing we were. Yeah, beautiful.
And that's actually, and it surprised me. I'm making some more sprays at the moment, and there's always a particular thing that I do to make the sprays. I had this nudge from the dragons to actually channel the dragon straight in to the water. Now I've not done that for ages, and it's like, oh, and there's confidence. And then in came the words for confidence, and I could feel it coming through, literally through my head and down my hand. And then I was like, okay, that was done. I had to do some, I call it light language, but it's for me, I use because I refuse to talk light language. It's like dragons are trying to get me to do. It's like no, but I work with symbols and hand movements, and so that went into the water. And I had to do the same with the other one that's on the go as well. And it was the difference in energy, but it was instant. It was like, okay, right, I need to be working with this dragon. Come forward. What do you want to say? What do you want to put into the water? What needs to be infused with? You know what? And the words just flowed, and it's instant. It's like, okay, that's done. Thank you. Again, did the da, and we were there.
Love it.
Not difficult. It
No,
doesn't need
really not. But it is also too in the paying attention or being in the awareness of and letting that information come through. It's like you said, it's don't shut them down. Invite them in. Very powerful.
absolutely. And if it's too much, if it's too powerful, you feel nauseous, you feel wobbly, you feel a bit, ooh, what's happened? Ask them to step back a little bit. Ask them to take it back a couple of decibels. You know,
Yes.
because it's sometimes when you're not used to dragon energy, it can feel really big.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to go a little bit in the direction that I had first mentioned. And I so appreciate what you've just shared with us. Again, it's just some beautiful tools to really help each of the individuals and myself even. I asked about the dragon Reiki. Now, that just sounds so interesting. And let me just explain a little piece here. I know that I went and I got my level 2 Reiki. And now everybody understand that there are so many different types of Reiki out there. And um, primarily what I found very useful about getting a Reiki attunement was exactly that. It actually opens up a portal within yourself that this beautiful information comes through way more easily than if you hadn't been attuned. Having said that, you don't necessarily have to have Reiki attunement. And from there, I actually developed what I call my epicenter Reiki. And I hone in on the body, and it tells me energetically, even like, masculine and feminine energy, whose energy is attached to that injury or stress point. So that's why mine's epicenter. So it fascinates me that there's dragon Reiki, and I am so curious. So please divulge a little bit about that.
So that was one of the things that the dragons asked me to do, and I'd actually forgotten about that. Was to develop a dragon modality along the lines of Reiki. I went, nah, not doing that. You are allowed to say no to the dragons, by the way. Anyway, so fast forward a few years, and a couple of girls that I know were Reiki masters, and they do dragon as well. Anyway, so we sort of joined forces to work on the dragon stuff, on creating this dragon Reiki. And I actually pulled away from it halfway through. It's like, no, this is actually not right for me. But I was involved in the initial process. And part of that initial process is one of the girls is great with symbols and things like that. And so the dragon Reiki that I was involved in and that I'm attuned to is elemental. So now how you have your symbols within normal Reiki, this is the elemental symbols. And so you have like your fire symbol is like your chakra, and then there's one for water, obviously air, earth, and spirit. And again, it works in exactly the same way as using the symbols with other Reiki, but because you're working with the elements, is there too much fire? Is there too much water in this person? Is there too much earth? Or is there, or there not enough of one? And you can rebalance. And the beauty of it, again, a bit like using the the one that travels all across the one that's the bridge that travels across all space and time. That symbol from Reiki. I can't think what it's called. I did my Reiki so long ago. I can't remember the symbols names. How bad am I? Anyway, there's so you can use the spirit Reiki does very much a similar kind of thing. So it transcends all space and time. So you can send healing backwards and forwards through with this Reiki. It's a really powerful modality. But I've got to say, I don't use it.
Okay.
Although I've trained in it and I helped devise it, I don't do any hands-on healing now. I think I did it to death when I first started my journey, and I did healing for probably 10 years. And I think there comes a point you get like burnt out with it, and I certainly did. And I hardly touch it now.
I want to say something else to that too, because it's not necessarily that we get burnt out. I think it's a part of it is too, is that it's a doorway in, it's a portal in that we and of course using human words because there are no other words to talk in, we reach a certain point in our journeys that which we're in modality wise, it has expanded so much with us that we are no longer practicing it in the form that we learned it, and we're using it in different manners now. And so you're saying that you don't necessarily use it anymore. I believe ultimately, though, that there are things that you are doing in your practice or what have you that is a direct correlation right back to that. We just don't recognize that pathway anymore because we're no longer there.
Yeah, that hands-on healing I no longer do.
Yeah.
But all my dragon work is based in healing. It's based in
Yeah.
healing, empowerment, and growth. And that is all the dragon work for, I believe, everybody that works with dragon in any way, shape, or form. At the end of the day, my hands are now going. My hands going.
I love it.
What am I being told to start again? Anyway, no, I'm too busy. Anyway, all of the dragon work, from my understanding, is about healing. It's about personal healing, personal awareness, personal growth. And that's what all of my dragon work is actually based in those fundamentals. I just don't do the physical hands-on healing anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I just present it in other ways.
That's wild, like I've been talking with a number of people over the last couple of days, and this came up in a conversation yesterday that I had witnessed this dragon coming. And did I talk to you about this when you and I on your show? No,
I think so.
I had witnessed this dragon, and I've literally only like seen its head because it is so massively huge. Like its head is the size of Earth, and in hearing you talk, it's like I've, this dragon's really coming up again for me right now. And it's really fascinating to me because of what I'm hearing you say about the healing, the bigger picture, the self-growth, the self-love and everything. And it's just, I'm sitting here in wonderment, if you want. Just exploration mode and being okay with whatever's coming through, because I totally get that these dragons are here to assist, unlike what humans have done with their energy and imagination in the past. Wow.
I'll go with that. They are here to assist.
Mm-hmm.
They're here to assist our growth. And if we actually listen, and I try not to sound too dramatic, if we want our planet, if we want to survive as a species, the bottom line is we want to survive as a species on Earth, we've got to wake up.
Mm.
If we don't start and work with Gaia, and then I'm not going to get to all the politics of everything, but that's what we need to have fundamental changes from the top down.
Yeah.
Because
and it starts here.
Yeah. We start it, because what happens when we start to change ourselves, this is what the dragons have taught me, and it's really, again, it's so simple. When we start to change ourselves and we do that deep inner work, acceptance, awareness, mindfulness is a big one with dragons, all that type of thing, and we drop judgment, and there's a human doing, we all judge all day long.
Yeah.
Is what happens is we're not aware that we're judging or critiquing. you know. But when we come into more and more awareness, what happens? It hits the dragon song lines. And that the dragon song lines carry the collective consciousness around the globe. And they carries them around the globe via all the sacred sites. This is mountains, rivers, springs, ancient sites, like burial sites, or like we have in Stonehenge and things, or anywhere like that you've got across the globe. Yeah, Uluru and all of those, the sacred sites, the old Native American sacred sites that we know and don't know about. They all gather that energy, and it passes around the world. So whatever we're giving out collectively is what gets passed around the world and hits our collective consciousness.
Isn't it interesting that we keep coming back to what we're thinking about? I think it doesn't matter what, like, I've talked to hundreds of different people, and it seems to be the same underlying thing. It's, what are your thoughts? What are you thinking about? Right?
Because it's through your thoughts create emotion and feelings, and your feelings are far more powerful than your thoughts, because your feelings connect into your subconscious. If you think our conscious mind holds about this much, think of an iceberg. You've got the top is so big above the water, and how deep an iceberg is below the water, and our feelings are connected into our collective consciousness, and that's where massive change happens. Because if we can change how we feel, we then change our thoughts. But they happen literally simultaneously, and sometimes it's about changing the thought that changes your feeling. That it's not always the same way around, but the powerhouse, the catalyst for change, comes from what you're feeling.
Yeah. And it's also recognizing the habit that you have.
Oh, yes.
And breaking that habit and creating a new habit. So it's like, I love what you just said about how that judgment, and we don't recognize that we're in judgment. And I am really recognizing those moments that I am judging now. And it's like, it's on one hand, it absolutely horrifies me on one hand, because it's like, oh my gosh, like, do I want to know that I'm judging this much? And yet I love what you just said, because it now gives me the incentive, if you will, to really move away from that judging, whatever it is, whether it's of self or whatever, and start to look at the, wow, this is so beautiful, because I want the world to be beautiful. I want the dragons to be gifted with my thoughts of beauty versus the judgment. And wow. I just want to say wow one more time.
What's really interesting, and I caught myself doing this one day last week, one day over the last couple of days, and I was being all very judgy about something. I went, oh, for God's sake, Caroline, wind your neck in. And then I thought, I know I'm judging myself for judging. And you end up in this spiral, and it's so easy to then go into giving yourself a hard time and telling yourself off and all of that. You know what? Don't. Have the awareness that you've been judgy about something.
Yeah, acknowledgement, right? Acknowledge.
Yeah, it is that acknowledgement. And, okay, so I'll do better next time. Move on.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
I should just end up in that spiral otherwise, and you're defeating what you're trying to achieve, because then you start berating yourself. Then you lower. Then you thing is, when you start getting into that berating yourself and telling yourself off, and how awful am I for judging that person down the road, or whatever it is you're judging over, you start getting into that. You actually lower your frequency.
I want to take this a step further and really drive this home for people. Okay. So I'm sitting here looking at us, and before we started the show, I had on a Paul Brandt shirt. Paul Brandt's a Canadian country singer, and it said, "The journey journey tour. And I love wearing that shirt because it just feels like that's what I'm on. I'm always on this tour. I'm on this journey. And yet I sat in judgment of myself because this beautiful soul showed up in this gorgeous blouse. And here I had on this with yellow things on and letters and whatever. And in that moment, I could have went, oh my God, this looks great. That shirt still is so powerful here. So there's a prime example of just
Isn't
how
it
easy it
interesting?
is that we're judging ourselves and we
Yeah.
don't even realize it.
Well, for full transparency, I had to go and change literally before we came on because I'd spilt my dinner down my top. I thought I can't go on camera with half me dinner down my top
Yeah.
because what would people think? Oh, look, what's that mark on her top? Oh, dirty mare, she's got her dinner down it. She could bother to go and change. Judgment. I didn't want to be judged.
But we had already done it to ourselves.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
You know,
And we
so
are two beautiful, magnificent beings right here.
full of light.
Yeah.
And that's what it is, isn't it?
It is. It is. Is there anything else that you want to bring up or talk about, or um,
Yeah.
as I drove home the judgment piece? Is there anything else that the dragons are urging you to let the audience know, let the listener know?
I talked about this on Dragon Thunder actually. And what happens with the dragons? I didn't say this on Dragon Thunder, but what I've learned with the dragons is they never stand still. That
Mm,
you're always evolving and learning with the dragons. So where I started with the dragons in the early 2000s to where I am now is vastly different because we're constantly evolving together. So don't think for a second that that's what you're doing with your dragons, that's what you'll always do. It's an expansive journey that will continue to unfold for you all the time you're willing to let it unfold. So don't put anything that you're doing into a box and close the lid because you'll miss so much. And on that note, I often talk about how certainly in Western tradition, how the dragons are seen as gold hoarding, maiden stealing, vile beasts in our history and mythology, in our fables and legends. I was having a conversation with a lady who's she's actually a coach and one thing and another, called Amanda Bezic, and she was talking about she sort of we sort of met because she wanted to know about dragons and things, and she works with like mindset and abundance and this type of thing. And then she messaged me and said, "Do you think the dragons are to do with abundance and whatever?" And my immediate judgment was the dragons don't care whether we have money or don't have money. They don't care how we make a living. They don't give a stuff about anything in the physical world. And I was literally stopped in my tracks by the dragons.
okay.
And it was like, hello, we are the protectors
Mm,
of gold and abundance. Or we're the guardians, sorry, of gold and abundance manifestation. We are the protectors of human doings.
mm,
This all came about from this conversation I was having with Amanda. And that's been a massive game changer for me because I've been working with like manifestation abundance alongside the dragon, well, before even working with the dragons. It's work I've been doing for probably 20, maybe even 25 years. But it's not something I talk about. It's something that I just do, but I don't talk about it. I sort of drop in and out of it. Anyway, so this year, having had that conversation with Amanda, I've gone, oh my God, like complete. There wasn't a light bulb moment. It was like full on flashing neon signs, the big lights on. It was like multitudes of those. And so there's the dragons are all about our growth. And I was on a course earlier this year, and something that we were taught was that if you could distribute the world's wealth among heart-centered, particularly women, but not to disregard men, but particularly women. If you were to distribute the world's wealth across heart-centered, grounded, service-led women, and they could be wealthy in their own right, what difference would we make collectively to the planet? That to me was like one of those complete mind-blowing moments.
Oh, I feel that viscerally.
I felt it. And this is where the dragon, because the thing is, the dragons don't always teach you directly. What they'll do is they will lead you to people that can support your journey, that helps you best serve yourself and others. That's something that I've had to really learn with the dragons, is it's not always direct messages. That's how it started. But now I still get that. But I've also expanded, whereas they'll take me to people that I need to hear or learn from.
I'm loving this conversation because I was literally just working with a client, and they thought that they wanted to go do this, and they were adamant about this, but they didn't feel right, whatever this was, right? And in that, they actually met this person who said something to them, and they were like, "Oh," and you like perfect example. Like you just gave me such a beautiful confirmation to that. Yeah.
And that's exactly how it is. The dragons will put people in your path. They will put people, situations, opportunities, all kinds of things. And you have a choice. You can disregard it and ignore it, or you can go, oh,
Yeah.
okay, what do I do with that? Or you have that, oh my word, which is what it did to me. And the key is back to awareness. All of it with the dragons is about awareness, because it is often so subtle you don't see it happening. It's only when you look back, yeah, oh my word, look at that. Which is why I encourage everybody to journal every day.
Yeah.
Because you won't see how far you've come. I heard an analogy yesterday, and this was through a friend of mine, and she was with an incredible healer therapist lady that I know in Cornwall, and her therapist, or her healer lady, said to her, what you need to do actually is imagine yourself stood on a mountain peak,
Okay.
and then look back at just how far you've come over the last 6 months, 2 years, however long it happens to be. But look up clearly from this top of this mountain at just how far you've come. I thought that was such a beautiful analogy, because we're really good at going, we're not good enough,
Yeah.
or I haven't done enough. And it's only when you look back and you do it with that bird's eye view from the top of a mountain, you can see, oh my God, just look, I've done this, oh, whatever. And you can see the whole picture. And I just thought that was a really, really, again, it's how the dragons came in. I thought, oh, okay.
There's another piece of that too.
Reach the internet.
I'm really recognizing that
the connection and try again.
Sorry, my Google's deciding to speak.
I love that. And try again. That's what I heard. And try again. The piece that I want to hone in on there is, and maybe it's just from an awareness of mind, maybe you didn't put it to voice, but it's this awareness of that sometimes we get caught up thinking that we really need to be attentive as well to the information that's coming in, like super attentive kind of thing. And yet exactly. And yet it's in the passing of a conversation with somebody. Like the conversation that you and I have been having here today, like the little nuggets that I've been getting from this are just fabulous. and it's in those nuggets, those that somebody says something in passing. It's not even really a wholehearted, and you got like, what did you say? Oh, I don't remember what I said. It's like, oh my gosh, right? Yeah, yeah, very powerful.
And a lot of those nuggets, or when you're having a conversation, this is why I say about journaling, because it's that reflection time, and it's something. It's the malaise of the human race. So I'm now getting a dragon thing coming in here. It's the malaise of the human race. You don't give yourself time to reflect. You don't sit by the pool or by the river and stop. You never pause. Your ancestors knew how to do this. You don't. You have many sayings. Stop and smell the coffee. Stop and smell the roses. They're just words. You don't actually do them. You're getting right dragon bollocking. Sorry, guys. This is my dragon. Oh, I've just gone all goosey. My dragon guide hasn't come in for a very long time. He's saying reflection is the key to connecting with dragon. Pause. Find every opportunity through your day to pause. You don't have to stop, but the nuggets are in the mundane. Walking the stairs mindfully, driving mindfully. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You don't have to carve out time in your day to do what you want to do. You can do it as a part of your day. All you need to do is have the awareness to bring that in. Any more? No, I think that's it.
I wish this was like Zoom and I could do reactions on here with hearts and stuff. Heart. Thank you. I thank your dragon for that as well. Very much
Yeah,
appreciate.
that was Gelder. Don't see him very often. He has not been in for a long time. So
Yeah.
thank you for that, my darling dragon.
Yeah. So tell us about how we can find you.
So you can find me, on I'm carolinedragonlady.com. That's my website. And in there you'll find any workshops that I'm doing. There's some pre-recorded workshops in there. My retreat is coming up in September 24. I'm co-hosting that actually with a lady from the States. We've got 5 days. Is it 5 days? Yeah, Monday to Friday. And we are in a nearly 1,000-year-old building.
Wow.
And it's beautiful in about 3 acres of gardens in the Oxfordshire countryside. I was there I was there Monday last week. I did some video footage and took some photographs. So if you go to my my Facebook page, which is Caroline, the Original Dragon Lady, and go scrolling through there, you'll find some pictures and some reels and things for the retreat and some information about the retreat. So that's good. That's working a bit of dragon work, a bit of breath work. There's a place not far from there called the White Horse at Uffington and Dragon Hill, and it's purported that on the mound of Dragon Hill, it's always bare, and it's where they say that St George slayed the last dragon, and the dragon's blood was spilled, and that's why no grass ever grows there. And the White Horse at Uffington, I can't remember how old it is. I want to say I want to say it's about 3,000 years old. I'll need to check that for sure. But many people think of the White Horse, so it's carved. If you know anything about the UK, in Wiltshire particularly, there's carvings of white horses in the hillsides on the chalk, and they think the White Horse at Uffington is one of the oldest, and that many people say it's actually a dragon. It's not a horse at all. So when we're about 15 minutes away at Charlie Manor where we're staying. We're about 15 minutes away from the White Horse at Uffington, which is also an Iron Age fort. So we're going to connect with the ancestors and that kind of thing.
You know, I'm going to have to come back to the UK. I was there in 2018, and the things I know now versus then, it would be a whole entirely different trip.
Yeah, completely. And then in the autumn, after the retreat at Charney Manor, I'm then going to be holding a manifesting with the dragons workshop.
Love it. Love it.
It's all online. So the workshops, all my workshops, and 90% of my workshops are online. So there's no there's no time and space, because most of the time they're recorded unless I'm given direct instructions that they're not to be recorded. Most of my trainings are recorded, so people can always, if they can't join live, they can catch up later if they want to.
Okay. Sound good. Thank you so much, Caroline. I keep wanting to talk more and more and more and more and more. I love that I'm getting to know you, and I really cherish how authentic you are, how real you are. That you use yada yada yada. I'm a yada 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 girl. Uh, I really really enjoyed this time with you. So thank you so much for being a part of the Dragon Tales.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me on, Sandra. I've really enjoyed it. And I will, yeah, I think one of the things with me is that what you see is what you get. I don't have this off camera,
Yeah.
on camera persona. I'm the same with everything that I do. And people either, and I'm Marmite, people either love me or they hate me. And you know what? That's absolutely fine, because it's how it is, isn't it?
Yes, and I love you.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I've loved talking to you again. It's been really, really lovely to chat again. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll see you next time on the Dragon Tales.